Welcome, councillors and staff. Thank you. I need to advise everybody that we will be digitally recording the council meeting to assist in the preparation of minutes and allow for live streaming. A reminder to have the phones turned down, please. Attendance, we're all here and there's no leave of absences. If we could be upstanding for prayers, please.
Let us take a moment to clear our minds and focus on achieving outcomes that serve the greater good of the whole community. May light illuminate all present and support everyone to bring their highest and best selves to the debate and the decisions that we make here tonight.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Holdaker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It gives me great pleasure tonight to stand here for condolences to the first responders, our police service, and the tragic loss last Monday of a police officer in Tasmania. And we offer our sincere condolences to his family and to all the police for what they absolutely do, and everybody should have a right to go to work and be able to come home. It is such a tragedy for this state, and I call on the council to endorse the condolence message. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holdaker. I completely concur, and we'll note that in the minutes at the start of the meeting, please. Yeah, absolute tragic event, and I thank you for your words and this council to their council and the whole community up there. So, thank you very much. Right, we'll move into our meeting. Was I going to do this one before?
Yeah, do it now. Yeah.
Okay, so item 9.7, which was the asset management report and plan. Unfortunately, there has been the actual plan itself hasn't been attached to the agenda, so it hasn't gone out to the public to be able to see it. So we will withdraw that and bring it through in the July meeting, because it hasn't the opportunity for the public to have a look at it. So with 9.7 will be withdrawn. 2.1, I need a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the meeting on Thursday the 15th of May, a copy of which have been circulated, be confirmed as a true record. Thanks, Councillor Dabner. Seconded, Deputy Mayor. No debate. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. 2.2, minutes of the special meeting, once again been circulated, held on the 22nd of May, be confirmed as a true record. Same mover, same seconder. Yeah. Put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. 3.0, declarations of interest. Is there any conflicts of interest? Okay, 4.1, Mayor's communication. There's a number of meetings and catch-ups there. Is there any questions on those? Councillor Flowers?
With Miriam Betts, what was that date of, or just...
What date were we on it?
19th. Yeah, the 19th.
Of the 5th.
19th the 5th. Early catch-up. Good question. Was just I'm in the area, come and have a chat, see where we're at.
Yep.
But yeah, it was just basically that. What's your issues? What do you want me to chase up? That sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
No worries, thanks.
Which is all now, as we all know, changed a little bit. So.
Yeah, fair bit.
No more? If I could have a mover and a seconder, they be noted, please. Thanks, Councillor Collins. Seconded, Councillor Hine. Put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Council 4.3, the council workshops we had there. Any queries or questions? If not, I can have a mover and a seconder, they be noted, please. Thanks, Councillor Hines, seconded Councillor Dabner. Put the motion, those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. 5.2, questions received in writing. There's one from Mr Pullen. Well, there's a few questions from Mr Pullen with the officer's response on them. Any questions on those or queries, comments? Thanks, Councillor Pilkington.
Well, I've been approached by several people on this matter. I think it's an important thing for our district that wind farms are handled well when they're pulled down. I think we probably should have a workshop on it, maybe invite the wind farm people along to it.
Yep.
We should be putting a submission into the EPA on what we want, how we want it done.
Yep. Point taken. We can organise that in due course. So, thank you. Any other comment?
A question on
Councillor
that.
Hines?
So we won't be taking any more till after we have the workshop. We get a request for.
No, that's not the case at all.
Right.
In other words, there'll be status quo till we have the workshop.
So it's important we try and get the workshop in pretty.
Well, Councillor Hines, we've got a number of issues that are on the table which need to go through.
Yep.
So yes, we will do it as quick as we can, but we can't throw everything out to bring it in. So, but it'll be done at the first available gap. We can work it in. No public, so we'll move on to 6.0. Planning, so now I'll remind the councillors we're sitting as a planning authority, no need to stand to talk. George?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can everyone hear me firstly?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, very good. Through you, Mayor, so the planning item before you is for the construction of a new self-service truck wash and associated infrastructure located at 22816 Bass Highway, Smithton. What I might do is I might share my screen to work through the planning trials and the report as well. So can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
And so the site is located on the northern side of the Bass Highway off Graysmill Road, in between the Intertech Pivot and also part of the Britain's Timber Mill. The application is for a 3-bay truck wash. So what I might do is work through the development application itself, work through the discretions that are within the planning scheme, and then move on to the single representation that's been received. So the location of the truck wash is where the existing truck wash is, at the southern end of the site. So the site itself is the green boundary. It's quite a long site, and it's also split zoned. So the northern end is zoned general residential, which is the red, and most of the site, and certainly the southern part of the site, is zoned light industrial, which is the purple pink shade of colour. The proposal itself, and I might just jump to this screen, which shows the basic site layout. So we have the main truck wash building, and then we have the associated pump and effluent discharge and disposal area infrastructure between the building and the front boundary. In terms of the manoeuvring of vehicles, trucks will drive into the eastern vehicle access into the truck wash and exit through the west. There'll be some upgrades to the pavement, as well as making the exit and egress area as well more suitable for high vehicle usage. There's the 3 bays and the anticipated maximum capacity of the truck wash is for 6 vehicles in an hour, being one vehicle in each bay per half an hour. So that's a full operational capacity. The likelihood of that occurring every hour throughout the course of the day is likely to be quite low. There is mention within the application, and particularly the traffic impact assessment, around 12 vehicle movements per hour. That still is only relating to 6 trucks over that hour. The vehicle movements account for 1 entry movement and then 1 exit movement. So whilst it's saying 12 vehicle movements per hour, it is only for the 6 vehicles. The use itself is service industry, which is identified as a permitted use within the light industrial zone. So it has a permissible status within the zone. There are 3 discretions that are invoked under the use provisions. They relate to hours of operation, external lighting, and also commercial vehicle usage, or the usage of vehicles for the proposed activity. Now, this is more of a technicality as opposed to a discretion that is invoked on the basis that it doesn't meet the acceptable solution. Now, what I mean by that is there are use provisions that talk about where uses are located on a site that's within 50 metres of a residential zone. We need to have regard to operating hours for lighting and commercial vehicle use. The technicality that I talk of is that the site itself or constitutes the entirety of the green boundary. So the clause is concerned about the entire site, not where the particular use is located within that site. So the technical discretion is that the northern part of the site adjoins the residential land, and therefore it is within 50 metres of residential zone land and also within 50 metres of residential dwellings. The reality of it is that the truck wash itself is going to be located some 270 metres from the actual zone, and then a further around about 400 metres to the nearest residential dwelling, which is greater than 50 metres, which is what the acceptable solution is saying. So, whilst it theoretically doesn't comply with the acceptable solution, it actually meets it on the basis that the particular activity is going to be located more than well and truly above 50 metres from sensitive uses in the residential zone, and therefore the things that the performance criteria are concerned about in terms of impacts on residential amenity are negated by that separation distance. So we've deemed it to satisfy that component of the scheme. The other 2 discretions relate to landscaping. There's a requirement to provide for landscaping between the building and the frontage. In this instance, due to the functionality of the truck wash, only a small amount of landscaping is proposed around the site, and there's a landscaping plan that's been provided, and that's going to form part of the endorsed plans as part of the permit if it's approved, which will require that landscaping to be implemented as part of that use development. And then the final discretion relates to traffic generation at the vehicle crossing and within Grays Mill Road and the broader local road network. In this instance, a traffic impact assessment has been provided, and whilst it's determined that the use will increase vehicle usage within the local road network, it's deemed to be satisfactory from a road safety perspective in this location. And that's also been reviewed by Council's Infrastructure Services. The single representation that has been received was from the operators of Impact Fertiliser. Probably not Esoteric Pivot, that's Impact. I correctly pointed that out, which is at the end of Grays Mill Road. And they've raised some concerns relating to traffic within Grays Mill Road, water pressure and construction. In terms of traffic, they're concerned that the new truck wash, if at full capacity, which the analysis in terms of the traffic impact assessment has been undertaken on a worst case scenario, they're concerned that there may be some backing out of trucks along Grays Mill Road. We're of the opinion that one, there's 3 bays which will allow multiple trucks to use the truck wash at one time. There is a a reasonably quick turnover rate of roughly 30 minutes. There is sufficient space between the truck wash and the entry driveway to have vehicles back up, and then there's also some further lay-down areas as well within the gravel car park and other areas of the site. In the event that the road does start to be blocked up by vehicles and trucks waiting, that would obviously become an issue which council's able to manage through signage and other various mechanisms if needed. We don't anticipate it being used at the full six trucks per hour every hour during the course of the day. We expect it to be far more less frequent than that, and therefore likely to have sufficient space within the truck wash, but then also having at least 3 vehicles between the truck wash and the driveway, which would allow for 12 vehicles on the site there. Water pressure has been raised as an issue. The fertiliser building currently has low water pressure, and they're wanting confirmation that this truck wash is not going to cause any further issues in that regard. The general response there is that water pressure isn't a specific planning matter to be dealt with. Notwithstanding this application is made by TasWater, and it's a TasWater project, and we would assume that TasWater will be appropriately managing water pressure. I do know that there is some pumping infrastructure proposed, which may relate to increasing the water pressure for this particular operation there. So we're not anticipating there to be any additional issues from a water pressure perspective, although that would be a matter of TasWater to deal with at a later date. And then the final question, or final concern raised was around construction and impacts of the business during the construction stage. So basically, any occupation works within the road reserve will require a works within the road reservation permit from council, which would include traffic management, construction traffic management plans and those sorts of things to ensure that there's continuity of use of Grays Mill Road. Worst case scenario, if it is closed for a short period of time, then I suspect that there will be appropriate messages sent to the users of the road. But given that there is sufficient space within the site to construct the building, I would expect that there wouldn't be any need to close that road. So on that basis, happy to take any questions, but the assessment concludes that the application satisfies the requirements of the planning scheme and it's recommended for approval subject to the listed conditions. So happy to hand back over to you, Mr. Mann.
Thanks, George. Any questions to George on the
Yes,
on the
Mr.
plan?
Mayor.
Councillor Holdacre?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. George, Grays Mill Road is part owned by council, as I understand it, and then who owns it from there on? Going into Pivot, Impact, who owns it from where council owned to, where you turn left into, turn right into the tyre place, is where council owns to, is my understanding. So who owns the rest of Grays Mill Road to get into the fertiliser depot?
Through you, Mayor. That's a good question, Councillor Holdacre. I've just got Just see my screen. Yeah, so we can see that where the red line ends, that is the end of Grays Mill. And then this would be a private, it is a private laneway up through into the into where the truck wash is proposed to go. I suspect James may be in the best position to answer this, but I imagine that that's just maintained privately, although it is located within the road casement.
Well, George,
I don't know how that's governed.
George, the reason I raised that question, because when the fertiliser people were asked to make a contribution to fix it going past the existing truck wash there, they said it's not their road, so they didn't want to pay any maintenance to the road. Now, is that going to still be the case, or have we got to deal with them in another way?
Was that to the road between
The road from the council road up to where the trucks presently turn round to go on the existing truck wash is the fertiliser says, well, it wasn't their road, so they weren't prepared to pay any maintenance towards that road. Now, if is that still going to continue? Because I think it's a bit cheeky for them to be going crook about Mills Road if they're not paying any maintenance to it.
George James has got a bit on that. So,
yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. It's certainly listed as a private road beyond the extent of council's maintainable section, so be my understanding that it'd be a joint responsibility of the property owners that benefit from the use of that road to contribute towards the maintenance of that road.
So in other words, it's just a road reservation?
Yeah, that's right, yep.
Or probably an easement to that title or something?
Yeah, there could be.
okay. Any more questions? If not, is there a mover for the report or the DA?
So moved.
Councillor Flowers, second, Councillor Oldacre. Councillor Flowers, you wish to speak?
No, I'm pretty happy with it. It'd be good to see it go. It's nothing worse than seeing them all sitting there for 2 hours waiting to get into the truck wash. Costing people a lot of money.
Thank you, Councillor Oldacre.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, it will be a big improvement on what's there. There will be no more truck movements, or very little, from what's existing there, and there's a hold up there at the present time. But once you triple the size of it, there will be no hold-ups whatsoever on those roads there.
Yep.
And people have access to go through there.
Thank you. Any other speakers, for or against? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, George.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. We'll see you later.
Thanks, George.
7.11 is a question, Councillor Hine. Removal of storage shed with the officer's response.
Yep,
You good with that?
I'm good with that. I think the outcome has been pretty good. I haven't had a talk to the people that were involved initially.
Thank you. 7.12, Councillor Popovsky, leave liability graphing.
Yes, thank you for that, and hopefully it's an addition that we'll have updated probably every quarter.
Yep, thank you. So, yep, Rachel's got a note on that, thank you. Councillor Hine, budget inquiry. There.
That's been sorted.
You happy? Sorted, thank you. Councillor Flowers, new animal control fees.
Yep.
Happy, thank you. Okay, that's cool. Now, councillors, we've got questions without notice.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Have you had any discussion, Mr Mayor, with Anne Urquhart in regards to the Robbins Island wind farm, when they're going to make a decision about that?
We had a meeting with Anne on when? Yesterday. And so how quickly the memory goes.
Holiday mode.
We had a meeting with Anne on prior to doing some citizenship stuff yesterday. I did ask the question of where that was at. She really just indicated that she was, whilst pushing for it, was waiting. She had no definite details. She could did know or she could tell us. So she's had meetings with the Minister and his Chief of Staff in relation, and has pointed out, I suppose, the importance of the area of it going ahead. But at this stage, it still has, at the end of the month, I believe, is still the date where it's supposed to be announced. No further than that.
You're playing politics.
Can't answer that question either. Like I said, she talked about it and gives some information, but she stopped short of saying whether there's any indication of what way it will go. Councillor Flowers?
I'm led to believe that we've got to be given professional information. Now, Phil Loon, which supposedly gives us professional information, has been banging on about sea level rise. Now, in excess of 100 billion tonnes of ice has formed in the last 12 months, extra. Can Phil Loon or someone tell us where the water's coming from?
I presume you'd have some sort of... I'm trying to figure out where the question's coming from, or what's the basis behind the question.
I don't think Phil Loon's got the degrees or whatever to be dictating to us about sea level rise. Has he got a degree in sea level rise?
No, but he would be taking the scientific evidence that comes with that, I would presume.
Well, through you, Mr Mayor, I guess be interested to reference where the information is coming from that you're referring to. Where it's documented what you're referring to, I guess, then we can...
What, the 100 billion tonnes?
Where's the document that's been written about the issue you're raising?
Phil Loon's always into us over sea level rise. Even there, we had an office staff that stated, supporting Phil, that it's quite obvious that the sea level has risen at Stanley. It's quite obvious. But I don't know where the water's coming from. That's like if we're getting professional advice, it's got to be professional advice.
I would think...
All I think he's doing is pushing his own barrel.
I would think, Councillor Flowers, and I'm quite happy to ask the question that he's taking that as some scientific reports that he's taking that on.
But there's other
I'm quite happy to follow that through and ask the questions, but...
Yep.
So I understand your position on climate change, etc., but there's other views around, and I will ask where it's at.
Through you, Mr Mayor, certainly at the moment, Mr Loon's been engaged to do some work in relation to the Town Centre Master Plan and into the vision, and my knowledge of the work I've been working with Phil over my 3 or 4 months here, I don't think I've seen any issues around that matter in that work, so I'm not sure what work you're referring to and where the comments are and where it's quoted. I'm happy to follow through.
He's made the comment quite a few times at this table, and if the rest of the councillors tell the truth, they would back me up on that too. That comment's been made quite a few times. Like I said, there was one of the office staff stated, backing up his theory, that it's quite obvious the sea level's risen at Stanley. I don't think it's quite obvious, but yeah, probably when the tide comes it rises.
Once again, Councillor Flowers, happy to check where he's getting his information from, I would presume.
What's the question?
I would presume it's coming from a scientific basis, and I'll ask that question. So is that the question you're asking?
Yep.
Yep.
I was just led to believe we could...
Well, we do give professional advice,
yeah,
is what I'm telling you, and I'm happy to follow that through.
Through you, Mr Mayor, in relation to the matter, we would need to get specifics about when it was raised or what it's raised in, and we're happy to follow up where the information's come from. But without I haven't had that comment in the last 3 months. Phil, whether his comments when Phil worked here or not, that could be the case, but you need to give us some evidence, or we can follow it through, and if there is incorrect information provided, we can follow it through. But it's hard to do without knowing the context of the question and where it is coming from. So you need that information, I'm happy to follow it through. If you can provide me evidence whether it's written somewhere or whether it's been stated somewhere, happy to follow it through. But without that, it'd be very difficult to know what you're referring to in your question.
Like I said, though, there's others at this table that have heard the same statements, but rightio. The second question is the fence at the triangle bit at the Stanley Caravan Park how long before that'll be removed or put back to where it's supposed to be?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'll take the question on notice. The plan is to come back to a workshop with the council on that matter, most likely in July. I'm still waiting on getting some legal advice in relation to the matter.
Yep, no worries, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Flowers. Any further questions? If not, we will move on. Notice of motions nil. 9.1, financial reports. Rachel.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, before you we have the financial report for the period ended 31st of May 2025. On page 177, we've received no new applications for first homeowners grants, with only 3 in total this financial year, so that's quite a bit down on our last few financial years. So if you know first home buyers out there, encourage them to come in and take advantage of council's policy. In terms of page 178 and the profit and loss statement or the comprehensive income statement, we're currently sitting at a $3.4 million loss compared to the budget of 1.7 loss. We do have our financial assistance grants still to come in this month, and they generally appear in the last couple of days of the financial year, so that's somewhere between 2 and 3 million. Can't remember the figure off the top of my head, so that will bring us back down to roughly that budget of 1.7. In terms of the statement of financial position, we've got a current cash balance of 18.8 million and total equity of 277 million. We have on the next page the statement of cash flows with that 18.8 million. On the receivables page on 181, we've currently got 3.52% of rates outstanding compared to 3.44% at the same time last year. In the last couple of months, that had actually lagged a bit, so it seems to have picked up, which is good, because there was a 1 or 2% difference there a couple of months ago, so the collection seems to have picked up. In terms of debtors, we've currently got 883 outstanding owed to council. Part of that is the 2 grants that we received that we had to bill the state government for, which was 350 for the ceiling at Smith and Rec Ground and 250,000 for the Smith and CBD development plan. So those 2 bills are actually sitting there as debtors, which they've already been paid since the May statement. So that's good. Down the bottom there, also Councillor Flowers, as you requested last time, the petrol emission collected for both last year and this year sits at 278 and 282,000. That's on the bottom of page 181. In terms of our cash, online savers and term deposits, we're roughly in that, around that 4%, on average a little bit over 4%, so not doing too bad at this point in time, although rates are dropping, so that will have an impact on our budget going into the future. We've also got the area reports from page 183 through and the cash graph for the end of the period. So I'll present that for Council, Mr Mayor, and take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Hine?
On page 183, is that a typo in the transport infrastructure and revenue? It's down 63% on budget. Looks like to me, or?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's part of that financial assistance grants. So
Right.
we have a general component and a road component. So most of that would be that road component of that. So, yeah.
And that'll probably come in before.
Yep, that generally, so the 28th and the 29th, that generally always comes in. So, yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Further question? If not, could I have a mover and a seconder that the financial report be noted and accepted? Thanks, Councillor Collins. Second, Councillor Dabner.
Just seems to be.
No debate? Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Rates and charges 9.2, policy and guidelines for adoption. Again, mate.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So we've got a succession of reports on tonight that sort of relate to each other. The first one is the rates and charges policy and guidelines. So each financial year we'll have a review of the rates and charges guidelines and policy. And if there's any changes required, then we'll put them back up to council. So this financial year, we've got a couple of changes, and the first one is the introduction of FOGO. So on, where am I going? On page 197, there's a little bit in the middle there. From 1 July 2025, council impose a new waste management service charge on all rateable land to which it's supplied. So in the towns of Smithen and Stanley, for residential customers, they'll be supplied a FOGO bin this financial year, starting from sometime in around August, September, and council will charge that through their rates. And also that the urban collection for wheelie bins will actually go from weekly to fortnightly at the same time that the FOGO bins are introduced. So that's the most changes, I think, there, Mr Mayor, in that report for consideration.
Okay, thank you. Questions? If not, could I have a move and a second that this report be noted and accepted? Thanks, Councillor Dabner. Deputy Mayor. No debate. Put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. 9.3, rates resolution.
Thanks again, Mr Mayor. So, councillors, we have your rates resolution for the 25-26 financial year. It's probably the most important piece of report that you will pass, or hopefully pass. At any point throughout the year, this is what allows you to raise your rates. So it provides at least half the income that the council generates during the year. The changes that we have this year, as just outlined, is the FOGO service charge. So on page 202, we've apportioned that for 9 months. So for a part introduction of that to allow bins to arrive and to be the process to be rolled out. For sometime in August, September, we've got a charge there of $84. Also on page 202, the change this year is that the discount will be halved from 3% to 1.5%, and also that the penalty raised or the penalty charged on overdue payments will actually go from 7% to 5% as well. So on page 203, there's a big list there of the changes from last year to this year, so I won't go through all of those. But council has done up a flyer in terms of the waste space to show what the changes are next financial year for an urban, a rural and a business ratepayer. So I'll present the rates resolution for council's consideration, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Hine?
On the bottom of page 203.
Standing up, Councillor Hine?
Standing up, thank you. The stormwater reduction in both Stanley and Smithton, is there a simple explanation for that, or is just the way it's rated?
No, through you, Mr Mayor. We have supplementary rates that are raised throughout the year, which means we've probably got properties that have been built or that have gone up in value. So we had a big supplementary one that was just processed in May. So what that means is the value of the properties have gone up, so the cent in the dollar actually comes down. So we don't raise any more rates out of it. It just means the cent in the dollar drops because it spreads across those properties more. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So if we were keeping the cent in the dollar the same, that means we would raise more, but we don't. We actually lower it.
Yeah, right, thank you.
Yep.
Further questions? If not, could I have a move and a second that the resolution be passed? Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Second, Councillor Dabner. No debate? Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. 9.4, annual plan and budget estimate.
Right, I'll go again. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
BOG at the stage.
BOG. I think I'm on the ground, but I might not be the best. I reckon it might be the... So what I'll do is I'll just go through a few different sections. So I've got expenses, income, some projects, and then about borrowing. So in terms of expenses, we're working off a 0% increase because obviously we're in a deficit budget position. So anything that we can, any extra revenue that we can raise or expense that we can minimise, then we're trying to do that. So working off that 0% increase. Areas such as wages at 5%, insurance 20% and land tax have been identified where changes are necessary in that space to basically meet our requirements. Additional funds will be allocated in the asset accounting space as well as funding for a part-time economic development officer, so they're the changes in wages. We've got a $138,000 cost in there this financial year for the municipal revaluations that the Valuer General's Department will be undertaking in the next 12 months, and 40% of that will be in the 26-27 budget. We've had an additional $300,000 in depreciation for the revaluation of council's unsealed road network, and that's to do with changes in the price of gravel. We've also continued support for youth activities and programs, community events such as Day on the Duck, the Christmas Parade and Carols, public art and cultural programs such as Charts, the Circular Head Heritage Centre and the Stanley Discovery Museum, and education programs such as Cheddick and the Science Gig, so that's in the expense space. In the income space, we've got a general rate increase of 4.8%. The rates on stormwater and waste will be based on cost recovery plus an allowance for the renewal of assets. As said before in the last couple of reports, that we've had the introduction of FOGO for urban residential customers during August and September. And also we'll have a change to the urban waste collection route, moving from weekly to fortnightly after the introduction of FOGO as well. The rates discount will halve and then potentially reduce to zero the next financial year, depending on the strategy for council moving forward. Interest rates are also reducing, so interest income for the council based on its cash balance will also drop as well. Sales of food and merchandise and dairy tools at the Smith and Visitor Centre have been exceptional, so an increase in revenue has been budgeted for this, which is pleasing. We've also received a small increase of $40,000 budgeted for the Taswater dividend, which is outlined in their Taswater forward plan. There are no forecast exceptions to normal fees and charges income apart from Port Ladder. Fees have increased from $205 to $275 per tonne to cover additional transport costs to do with the closing of the Port Ladder site at the end of this year. All other fees will increase by a minimum of 4% in line with the council's financial management strategy. In terms of projects, projects in the planning stage such as the Smith and CBD, the population strategy and the community vision will carry over into the 25-26 year for completion, and our resources will be focused on completing these projects. The 25-26 budget is focused on renewals apart from the one big one, which is West Esplanade Playground and the associated amenities. There are also around $7 million in carry forward projects from 2024-25, which are mainly in the waste space. This includes $4.2 million for the capping of waste cells at Port Ladder landfill site. Other items for 25-26 include an upgrade of the Church Street and Main Road intersections in Stanley, master plan work for Greenpoint Marrawar, development of a camping strategy, upgrades to the basketball stadium, including padding of that southern wall, and several projects to secure council's ability to provide and secure the technology it needs to operate. So a full list of those projects that's only some, so a full list of those can be found in the annual plan document. In terms of cash, council's budgeted to have $10.7 million cash balance at the end of next financial year. This meets the requirements of council's current financial management strategy, which will be reviewed by council later in the year. In terms of borrowings, council's earmarked $1.9 million to be drawn down at the end of 25-26 if council receives matching funding to complete the $3.8 million project for the playground and associated amenities as well. So overall, there's been a reduction in the deficit of $300,000 compared to the amended 24-25 budget, and a reduction of $1.1 million compared to the original 24-25 budget, which is really pleasing. A 4.8% general rate increase, introduction of FOGO for residential customers, a reduction in the rates discount from 3 to 1.5, and funding allocated for the valuation department to do the municipal revals next year. We've also got the closure of the Port Ladder waste site and the allocation of the first stage for West Esplanade master plan of $3.8 million. So overall, I want to say thanks to the staff and councillors this year for the budget process. Everyone's been respectful and put their views across to get where we have, so it's good to see the council's values being demonstrated. There have been many discussions and proposed changes to work through, especially in the waste space, and no doubt there have got to be more hard discussions and decisions to make in the future. So, Mr Mayor, I'll present the 25-26 annual plan and budget estimates for council's consideration.
Thank you, Rachel. Is there any questions? Councillor Hine.
Yes. You mentioned in your opening remarks reference to the Economic Development Officer.
Yep.
On page 232, you've actually got no funds against it, you've got it as operating, as if, so that's going to be done within.
Through you, Mr Mayor, what that meant was that we didn't have it as a special project, it's just been included in our operational wages budget.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Pilkington?
Just the borrowing, we show a surplus of 1.7. Why do we need to borrow that much money if we've got a
So,
surplus?
through you, Mr Mayor, that surplus of 1.7 on the front of the profit and loss statement, and this is how the accounting standards say that we need to, we actually have to take the capital income off that,
Right.
so that actually reduces us down to the 1.4 million deficit. So it doesn't look great on the surface, it looks like we've actually got a surplus, but capital income, which is grants from, say, to build West Esplanade or roads to recovery or things like that, they're classed as capital, so we actually can't include them in our income. So then we've got to take them back off, which I think that was 3.1 million or 3.2, so that leaves us with the 1.3, 1.4 loss. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any further?
There's
Yes.
one other matter.
Yes, Councillor.
With depreciation, in the future, I think we should have a depreciation account that actually shows what goes in and what comes out. And I think it's almost half our rate income goes into depreciation. And we should fire that through so that we actually, it's transparent what's coming back from what we invest. And I don't know how simple it would be,
Probably not at all, but
but it would be good to have it at least once a year showing how things have rolled over.
The challenge would be if you look at your accumulated depreciation, that's a lot of cash that you'd be holding that you wouldn't be using, so it would be a very challenging thing to do. If you wanted to cash back your depreciation, the idea is you should be using it to renew.
But that's what it's for, and we should be documenting. It's a very big amount of money that we're holding, and we should know how it is operating. If in my business, the depreciation account, once you set up the system, it's not difficult, because you know what's drawn out of the depreciation account. We should know what's drawn out of the depreciation account every year that comes back into bridges or whatever, and we should know what goes in, and we should know the interest income that it's earning.
Yeah. The opportunity in relation to this is probably twofold. Some of this will be covered in asset management plans, which we would report. Not the other opportunity here to talk about this matter would be when you review your financial management strategy and 10-year plan, because those principles could be included in that document.
Yeah, which we'll, through you, Mr Mayor, we'll start that process once we're finished end of financial year and we've got our signed financial statement. So around October-ish, we'll start that process again. So,
I just think it's important.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good idea.
No further questions? Right, so we need a move and a second that by absolute majority we adopt the annual plan and budget estimates. So move Councillor Dabner, second Councillor Collins. No debate? No further debate?
No, can I just ask a question? So,
No, you can't, sorry, it's gone past questions. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. 9.5, what do we got? Policy, installation and use of cattle underpass policy.
Yep. Through you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, this is a report to consider the recently reviewed policy, namely the installation and usage of cattle underpass policy. So Council's had a policy in place for a while now to support and to clarify the process for farmers to install cattle underpasses under our roads, or under public roads rather. Council sees these assets as beneficial in that it reduces road safety risks, and it also helps with limiting deterioration of our road assets. So there aren't too many changes to this policy from the last version. It's really a clarified policy. The process is a little more streamlined. The major change we are suggesting here is to increase council's contribution, financial contribution, from $3,000 to $10,000 for property owners to install cattle underpasses. So there's probably a little more to draw your attention to. So the recommendations that council adopt the policy, and I present the report for consideration.
Thanks, James. Is there,
So
any,
moved.
is there any questions? And then I'll take your movement, Mr. Holdacre. Any questions? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Holdacre, seconded by Councillor Hine. You wish to speak, Councillor Holdacre?
No, thanks.
Councillor Hine? Any other speakers? Councillor Saposky?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, then Councillor Flowers after that.
Thank you. I'd like to speak to this proposed change. I see where the key changes are. Although I support the underpass policy, there's no doubt about that at all, for the obvious reasons that has been stated. But some of the changes that this policy is going to be is going to be, we're going to cover all roads, whereas before the old policy was just council roads. So that's a big impost on what may occur. The other one was, as stated there, we're increasing the amount of contribution from 3,000 to 10,000, which is quite considerable for the ratepayers. I can recall when the policy was developed, we were one of the first ones in Tasmania. In fact, I believe we were the first one to support under road pathways, and for obvious reasons, to try and help the farmers out in a considerable cost. But and now we want to increase from 3,000 to 10,000, which is a fair bit. But I'd also like to bring to your attention, councillors, now that the state government have come across this great idea of ours to help the farmers, they contribute $80,000, up to $80,000 for a road underpass crossing. 80,000. So if we was to add our 10 to it, that's 90,000 plus tax incentives and the rest. So I believe now that the state government have come on board, I don't believe that we, the council, should make a contribution. Support the idea, have our own policy, but I believe the state government should pick up the financial contribution to the farmers. And I can also see an advantage these days now that with corporate farming and investors and buying of new land, the cost of these underpasses, which we so desire, would be part of their capital investment and taxability in there. So they're getting, I believe they're getting, with the 80,000 from the state government, they're getting a very generous support. And I'd just like to see council's desire to have the underpasses, but not make a financial contribution, and I can't support it while the farmers have got the opportunity of $80,000 from the state government. And I think it's too big of impost on the local ratepayers to have to contribute $10,000 for each underpass, which is an endless figure. We don't know whether it's going to be 10,000 or 200,000. So it's an open-ended problem to our budget. So I can't support it unless we just give moral support, not financial. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Party. Councillor Flowers?
Roughly, what would it cost to put in one of these on an average?
Through you, Mr Mayor, previously we've had cattle underpasses have cost around $250,000, so I reckon it's probably gone up since then by inflation over a period of 3-4 years. So you'd be looking at 300 to 500, I reckon, depending on the width of the road.
And I've got to disagree with Councillor Popovsky because not everyone out there is a corporate farmer. There's a lot of single farmers out there, and I can also tell me, Councillor Popovsky, the rates in the rural area have gone well and truly above $10,000 in the last few years. Up. And also, if, just say for instance, in 10 years' time one of these fail, who's responsible for it then?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, so the property owner is responsible for the operations and maintenance of it, but council would actually take on the asset. So we would actually, through the construction process, need an engineer to sign off it is suitable for 80-year design life.
Yep.
So be highly unlikely that the asset would fail in that period, but council would take the asset on and be responsible for the replacement.
Yeah, it's not only the failure of it. If we want to redesign or change one of our roads, we're sort of obligated to stop in that same track, aren't we, because of the underpass. We don't want to be spending $500,000 building an underpass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Flowers.
Thank you.
Any further? Councillor Debner?
Yep. Just a point of clarification on many things that Councillor Popovsky's comments. The Tasmanian Government grant is 1/3 of the construction costs with a ceiling of $80,000, and as we've just discovered, that's probably always going to be $80,000. But that's also a finite pool of money, and once it's gone, it's gone. So we're talking about a policy that will go on into the future, whereas that money will expire at some point, probably in the near future, and that land that won't be available to farmers anymore. So.
Thank you, Councillor Debner. Councillor Oleg, you've got a right to reply, so there's been a dissenter.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a policy that we're bringing in for road safety of our community. The costs where stock are crossing without these underpasses now had significant costs to the roadways. Wherever you go, the cow dung is very hard on bitumen. You don't see the underpasses have to go in on gravel roads because there's not the traffic on them. But where there's high volume of traffic on them, the cow manure and the urine is very hard on bitumen. And it's about road safety for the community, not about where individual farms are. And therefore we need to call on council to support it.
Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. I'll be supporting. I reckon the cost to council is minimal compared to the potential safeties and the savings in that area as well. So I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Aye. Got him? Yep. Thank you, councillors. The 9.6 West Esplanade Master Plan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, this is a report to consider adoption of the West Esplanade Foreshore Master Plan. So the Master Plan is a guiding document for future development of our West Esplanade Park into a regional attraction. It outlines concepts for such things as a new playground, an amenities facility, a pump track, an upgraded entry and car park, a hard court, a turf zone, which would be where we would hold our events, a coastal park land, and a new skate park. So the master plan was a key action out of our open space strategy. It transforms the park into a community and family attraction, which encourages visitation from across the municipality and beyond. There are risks associated with this report. The two key risks there are probably one, a reputational risk. If there is a failure, I guess, to implement the plan in a timely manner, it can undermine community trust. The community have demonstrated commitment and interest in this plan. The other risk is a financial one. So if revenue is not increased to cater for the increased operational costs, depreciation and maintenance, then that could represent a financial risk for council. So the financial figures there are presented in the report as well. Other than that, I am pleased to represent this report and present it for consideration. The recommendation there is the council adopts the Foreshore Master Plan. There's a second, third and fourth part. The second part is that council commits to 50% of the capital cost to implement 2 zones, so Zone 4 the playground and Zone 6 amenities block, in the 25-26 financial, the annual plan and budget. Part 3 is that we commit to seeking external funding to find the remaining 50% of the capital cost for the playground and the amenities block. And then part 4 is the recommendation to incorporate each and every zone from the master plan into council's long-term financial plan. So with that, I'll present the report for your consideration.
Thanks, James. Questions?
Yep.
Councillor Hine?
A question. I think you've answered it as far as an email is concerned, but each zone that we're considering doing, the funding for that will come back to our annual plan every year. So we're,
Do you want to confirm that?
we're just embarking on the 2 at the moment, and down the track it'll come back to council as far as approval for the...
So through you, Mr Mayor, I think Councillor Hine, when we talked before about, looking at depreciation and things like that through the long-term financial plan, when I come back to council in October-ish, from then on, you can work out when you want to stage that. And if you want to stage that in whatever particular year of the 10-year financial plan, and we can see what the impacts of that actually are. So, and then each year you can move that about if you wish to. So it's not holding you to anything.
I think the important part of that, Councillor Hine, is like Rachel said there, is that every year we'll look at where we're at, and when we add a zone, hopefully we can get it in that time frame. That's the plan. But at any stage we can slow down, move direction on a yearly basis.
And I assume that we can amend the plan if we come up with something that's a better alternative or something on that plan.
Put 2 skate parks down there, certainly.
Yes.
Sorry, Councillor. That was a bit frivolous, I apologise. Any more questions?
No, that was a yes.
I apologise for being frivolous, Councillor. Any more questions? If not, can we have a move and a second that the report be adopted? Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Seconded, Councillor Dabner. No debate? No further debate, Councillor Oldacre.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. What the general community's got to understand here with this plan is that we can't do all this at once. I know you just made a frivolous comment, but that could be 10 years before you go to change that.
Yep.
And the community need to understand that that's what's got to happen.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of other projects that we're going to have to fund in that time. And some of us won't be sitting around this table by 2036.
I am, but yes, I understand where you're at. Yeah, no, certainly, Councillor Oldacre, and that is right, and that is why, whilst we're adopting this plan in the first 2 zones, going to this year's budget, each budget year it'll be reassessed as we go through. No further debate. Councillor Pilkington.
I support the plan in the long term. The cost is frightening. I think certainly the park areas, we should be looking to involve the community in tree planting and things. The park, the natural park was one of the highest costs, but it can be alleviated a lot by community involvement in that thing, following the plan, but using the community to do it, and we can advance that along with the zones without spending a lot of money.
Thanks, Councillor Pilgrim. I don't disagree. It's the opportunity as we get into them areas, especially in the school areas and stuff like that. There's a lot of opportunities we can look at and pick up there. Thank you. No further debate. Put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. 9.7 has been withdrawn till July. 9.8, draft Circular Head Community Wellbeing Plan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The plan you have before me replaces the youth plan and age-friendly plan and health and wellbeing plan, so the three plans have become one. It's important to note that it's not just council to deliver this plan, it fosters collaboration, enabling other groups and advocate on behalf of other sectors of the community. The plan enables council to focus its resources, staff and other, to deliver key areas that we've heard the community want us to focus on. And importantly, it assists us to get grants and other groups to receive grants if council has an adopted plan of a particular focus area. The plan is tonight to adopt something to go on public exhibition. We'll primarily focus on service organisations and people who deliver services, but we'll put it widely through the newspaper, and we'll hold a working party to come back and discuss anything that we hear before we bring it back to another council meeting for adoption. So I'll put it for consideration, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Alan. Any questions on that? We'll have ample opportunity to revisit, so if not, can I have a mover and a seconder for the plan, please? Thanks, Councillor Collins. Seconded, Councillor Dabner. No debate? Put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. 9.9, council issued delegations. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report allows you to review and adopt delegations for the General Manager, not for the General Manager, but for a General Manager. So this delegation would survive any future General Manager coming on board, apart from you reviewing it. Slightly different format to what you've been used to, but it is in line with the Legat template that's been prepared in partnership with Simmons Wolfhagen, and it's a format that's been used across Tasmania with the majority of councils, and it follows that format. The benefit of that too is you're not going to get legal advice all the time, because that is regularly reviewed as acts change under the arrangement that Legat have got with Simmons Wolfhagen, that all the councils do share in. So you'll be benefiting from an opportunity to continue to get legal review of those documents. The reason why you have delegations is to ensure that you have efficient management of council business, and allows you to make decisions as an organisation in a timely and efficient manner for the community. So you're not always coming back to use the council. You can actually operate quite effectively in the community. Obviously, I'm happy to take questions. It is not too dissimilar to your current delegations that are in play. Apart from it is, with the schedule as well as written, before you provide in some global delegations on all the acts, this way you're actually putting some conditions on some of those delegations through the schedule that you'll see in the delegation. So it actually provides you with greater opportunity to ensure that you've got conditions around things that you can make sure that's quite clear. A good example of that, I guess, in the delegations is things like, I think before you had the full delegation to the General Manager of the Burial and Cremation Act. Under the proposal, there is conditions there about, so that it doesn't mean you can go and sell a cemetery and those sort of things. There's certain things there that need to come back to a council table, so it allows you to do that. And obviously, there's a few places where there's a few conditions on that. The same as that you're given the power to the Dog Management Control Act, but you'll always be responsible for the dog management policy, exercise areas, and those type of political things. They'll still come to the council table to be confirmed and reviewed, and not a delegation that you're handing on to the General Manager. Like I said, I'm happy to take questions. It is broken down into 4 different decisions, deliberately done because, and I'll just simply clarify the reasons. Obviously, you've got a delegation under Section 22 of the Local Government Act that allows you to delegate powers for the Local Government Act plus other acts. That decision has been made by absolute majority. The next decision is the delegation under the Local Government Highways Act. A peculiarity there, that decision has to be by 2/3 of a majority, which is a little bit antiquated, but that's the way it is. The third one is that as a planning authority, you need to be a planning authority to make the decision under LUPA. So the third decision is making a decision as a planning authority. And then the fourth decision is separated out, which authorises the Mayor to sign and seal the instrument and request the General Manager to review the delegation. So the proposal there is that with the new General Manager coming in, There's probably a need to review this delegation with the other delegations that are in play that are coming from the General Manager. And this way, the idea here is in 6 months' time, you'll be able to review it with the General Manager in 6 months' time. If there's any issues with this one, you can readjust, but also you can make sure it is consistent with the other delegations that are internal, that are provided by the General Manager to other staff in your organisation. Haven't that, Mr. Chris, but there's 4 different recommendations we need to make.
Thank you. Any questions?
So with the delegation, is the delegation to the delegated officer just a day-to-day work, or does that item that needs delegation sign-off, is that given to the highest person available on that day?
No. So in behind this, in relation to this, there's a whole set of delegations that's also in the template that gets reviewed by Simpson Hagen that the General Manager's got access to. So there's an assessment made for each employee about what delegation they need to perform their work under the requirements of their job description. So there's delegations to all different offices. Some have no delegations, some have fairly big delegations. So it depends on what work they need to perform and what they need to be able to perform that work, whether they need an authorisation or a delegation. So
my question really was being directed, if you're sitting in the chair at the time as General Manager and you've got an operative that could sign off it, would they come to you or not? Or they just do it under their delegation?
If they've got delegated power to do it, they do it themselves.
Yes, right.
Sometimes it'll delegate up. So a good example of that is authorisations for financial transactions. Whilst there's a delegation that's provided to the General Manager, which is basically approved authorisations, that's scaled down. So some officers, I signed one off for James today, which is a large contract. I'm on the one delegation to sign that one off because of the size of that authorisation. So they will scale up, but generally if they've got the general power, they'll be able to sign off at their officer level.
Yeah. So the other part of the question is, does the General Manager get a report on his delegates sign-off monthly or quarterly?
Through Mr. Mayor, no, that'd be massive task. Obviously, you rely on them understanding what their delegations are and what their powers are, and if they're performing to that, there's no reporting up or when they're using those powers. They're using some people are using those powers. The power could be as simple as a power to enter a property to perform their work, to do an inspection. That could be. There's certain powers that you're delegating that are you wouldn't be reporting those through.
Mr. Mayor, too, in what you're talking about, Councillor Poposky, is that we have, say, in terms of what's that?
Well, I just can't hear.
In terms of financial delegations and things like that, that's what the Tas Audit Office actually audits us on as well. So they'll have a look at, they'll go through all our payments for the whole financial year, or pick a sample of those and actually see whether the signatures on them actually match the delegations that they've got. So we might have an officer that's able to sign up to $1,000, some have got 2,000, some have got 5, yes. Some have got 25, and they'll make sure that those have been signed off within that delegation. So we do, the Audit Office goes through them, especially in terms of the financial ones. They might pick some different ones as well from time to time to go through them, but they do IT delegations about who's got access to systems and things like that. So we've got to have policies in place as well to cover that. So also when we have people go on leave, we actually on-delegate. So if I go on leave, then generally I give my delegations to Duncan and then the GM has to sign off on that. So, yeah, it's a pretty extensive process.
Yep.
Yep.
So there'd be no delay in some delegation that could cause conflict to the council's belief that would cause embarrassment to the General Manager or the Mayor?
Through me, generally it shouldn't be, because we all should be politically astute too, because you might find, like I know as General Manager, delegations you might not choose to use it because you know the politics in it, so you choose to bring it to the table anyway. Yes. So even though you've got the power, you'll bring it to the table because you believe it's political and it needs to be a decision that's more broadly made in the open or whatever it might need to be. So you'll do those sort of things, and you'd like to think that would happen. So ideally, and if that was a situation where you felt that you were over-delegating, you've got the ability in some cases to pull it back. In other cases you haven't, because some of the powers that the General Manager is delegating are powers he's got, not the Council. So sometimes the Act will say the General Manager has certain powers, and sometimes it will say that the Council has certain powers. So you can only pull back the ones where Council's got powers if you've delegated them out.
So just another, would you consider an EA agreement with your staff as one that should be shared with the councillors before delegation or not?
In relation, well, at the end of the day, the responsibility of the workforce is with the general manager, the way they're structured. My personal practice in the past, I don't know what general managers don't do that, is that generally as you go through the process, you would probably, certainly towards the end of the process, share what some of that looks like and what some of the issues are in it. So I would say that whilst there's no requirement to bring the EA back to the table to get any approval, it's something that can be approved by the general manager, it is wise to communicate, whether it's through a workshop or through an information report, about what some of the things might be as you go through that negotiation of an EA. Would be what I would think would be good governance to do, and something I'll probably leave with Paul and the EL.
Share the load a bit, eh?
Yeah.
It'll always be the general manager's responsibility, but the information can be shared around the council.
As long as he meets the criteria of what's been allowed in the budget.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
That's good, because that hasn't been shared with councillors every year. But what you've just said makes us more harmonious the way we work together.
Generally something you do towards the end of the process, and particularly if there's things in there that's going to, like obviously, the biggest thing you negotiate in EA obviously is the pay rise. That's the biggest monetary issue in there. And while you might try and negotiate it in line with what the long-term financial plan is saying, sometimes through that bargaining, but then it presents issues. It's important the council understand the consequences of that decision and what it's going to do to future budgets. Yeah, so it is important that there's a journey that the general manager goes through with the council. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Sam.
Further questions? If not, can I have a move and a second that, do we need to do this individually?
Individually, yes. Just
Okay,
so we've got the
recommendation 1, we need by absolute majority. Have a move and a seconder for said. Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Second, Councillor Dabner. No further debate. We'll put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Recommendation 2, we need 2/3 majority. Have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Hines, second Councillor Collins. No further debate. Put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Carried. Recommendation 3, a mover and a seconder.
And just note that you're going into a planning authority now.
Going into a planning authority now, then we'll do recommendation 3. Move and a second. Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Second, Councillor Collins. No further debate. Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Out of planning authority.
Now we're out of the planning authority and in the council again. Recommendation 4. Move and a second. Thanks, Councillor Collins. Second, Councillor Dabner. Put that motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. 9.10, Senior Management Report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll start off, and there's a bit in here from other directors. So it's just in relation to that, there is my activities there for the last month. I might just point out that I had a discussion with the Mayor in the last few days. We're going to change both my diary and I think the Mayor's diary, so we're only going to report the meetings up until the agenda is prepared last week. So you won't get that last week and you'll get that the following meeting. That means, because sometimes we've got to go in there and say, oh, that meeting didn't happen, or the new meeting. This way, just make sure that what's in there is the facts. It doesn't mean that there hasn't been a meeting in recent times. We might not say as part of the meeting verbally that there was another meeting, but generally I think that's a better way than correcting meetings that sort of don't happen. In this case, I think all those meetings did happen for me in that last week, but going forward, we will do that. I'll put in there a bit of an update in relation to population strategy. So that's a workshop next week, and you'll see a copy of that first draft of that strategy come out tomorrow, which I think it's a really good first start. So I think you'll be impressed with that strategy when you get that, and then we can workshop that next Thursday night and see where we go to with that document and see how close we think the consultant's got it to where we want. With that, I think I will hand over to the Director of Community.
Nothing particular to highlight, except that what came out of the Community Wellbeing Plan was a well-connected and active community, and you can see all of the programs that are listed in this plan that happen almost every month, every quarter that we put these reports up. So we've got a very active community team and a well-engaged community. That's the only point I would like to make.
Okay.
Don't you want to add any comments, James?
Any comments?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, I could probably briefly mention a few things in the infrastructure area. Davis Street and Nelson Street reconstruction works substantially completed, although you would note that the slip lane is still in place. Those works are deferred due to some Telstra complications. We're yet to hear back from Telstra on that, but we're hoping to get stuck into that next construction season. Quick note on the FOGO rollout.
Just before you move off that, why wasn't the underground infrastructure picked up in the planning?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. It was picked up that the Telstra pit needed to be located, and there was a cost estimate for that, but it wasn't until excavation occurred that the full scope of the work was realised. So.
Such a simple matter, I thought would have been picked up pretty easy.
Yeah. Take your point.
Waiting for a cable, is my understanding.
Yeah, it's not optic fibre, one of the main optic fibre cables through town that needs to be relocated.
Got to come out of Europe, as I understand.
You're not quite sure when that'll be completed?
Not yet, still waiting to hear back from Telstra on that.
About April next year, Ashley.
I might have to get my plans out.
Will there be any information put out to community members about that? Because I get questioned all the time. I thought they were taking the slip lane out.
Yeah.
Is it finished, and is that the work done? Like, people are actually quite confused.
Yeah.
Because we put it all out there to community before that we were taking it out. Then the road got sealed temporarily, and people think it's finished.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, I thought there was some communication,
Yeah, there was somewhere there.
I think, I'll take your point and we can review what we've communicated and maybe do some better messaging there.
That'd be great.
The other quick note there was just around the FOGO rollout. So all's going well to roll out FOGO. Bins are planned to be delivered to Smithton late August. So looking at starting that collection early September. So that's probably about it.
Okay, any questions to Eddie? Councillor Hine?
Just on the one Councillor Dawes has touched on, I'm getting a bit of some question about that. Why is it possible to put a set of lights on the slip lane and leave it there?
No. It's already been decided. Sorry, James.
Well, it seems to be working pretty well.
Yeah, probably can't answer that question right away. Gut feeling is probably not practical. The preferred solution is still to go ahead and remove the slip lane and bring the left turn into the existing traffic lights. Duplication of the traffic lights probably wouldn't be a favoured option, but yeah, we can take that on board.
Councillor Flowers.
On the 5th, Bass Highway update with Mayor. What part of the Bass Highway and what was discussed at that? On the 5th of the 6th.
The west of discussions on the stuff west of Smithton.
And what was the outcome?
It was
Change of government.
Yeah. As well as heading towards and making some ground with, getting some reasonable hearing from Minister Vincent, and then they called an election.
Yep.
Actually, I'll have some I'll give a quick update at the end of the close on where that's at.
Yep, no worries, thank you.
Councillor Hine?
On the 18th meeting with yesterday, it looked like, meeting with Britain Timber.
Yeah, through Mr Mayor and I, with Britain Timbers, Sean Britton will be coming to a workshop to talk to council on the 10th of July, I think it'll be. It's in relation to talking to council about support and some issues that he foresees potentially with log supply going forward. So he just wants to brief council on that and potentially a letter of support as he works through a new log supply agreement. So that'll come back to council at a workshop.
No further questions? If I could have a move and a second, would that be noted, please? Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Second, Councillor Pilkington. No further debate. I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. 9.11, we've got minutes from the Community Recreation Centre Committee, Stanley Town Hall, the SWAL, April Briefing Report and the Northern Area Management Committee. Is there any questions or comments on any of those, please? If not, should I have a move and a second that they be noted, please? Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. Seconded, Councillor Hine. No debate? Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, before we go into closed, whilst still in the public meeting, I would like to, on behalf of Councillor Andrew, thank you for, this is your last meeting, as far as formal meeting goes. Thank you for assisting us and guiding us through this little period of where we're changing GMs. It's been greatly appreciated. We've been able to manage to keep things rolling along, and your advice has been greatly appreciated. So I'd like to have that in the minutes and publicly get out there in the public and thank you for your time and your work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors. I've enjoyed my 3 months.
That's the right choice.
I've enjoyed the 3 months, and yeah, I do wish you all the best going forward. And my early discussions with Paul and that sort of thing, I think you've chosen very wisely, and I wish you all the best as you work forward with Paul. I think you've made a good choice from my first impressions, and obviously, yeah, I've really enjoyed my few discussions I've had with him over the last few weeks. So I wish you all the best going forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I need by absolute majority a motion to consider the matters listed.
So moved.
Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. Seconded, Councillor Collins. Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried. And I need a motion to absolute majority to close the meeting to consider the following. Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. Seconded, Councillor Hine. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.